You're all very welcome. Thank you for your time and for the responses to the committee questions. It was very useful. And can I welcome too the focus that NAMA has brought over the last 12 months or so to both the private residential market and to the social residential market. I think setting up a dedicated team is very welcome, and the numbers of residential, private and social housing that NAMA is looking to put on the market is not insignificant. I'm a bit disappointed with the take-up from some of the local authorities, and we don't have time, unfortunately, to get into it, but I'd like to congratulate NAMA for some of the work it's done in this area over the last year. Can I ask, just for the committee, the big numbers, could you just remind the committee, Mr. McDonagh, the total book value and the total purchase price right at NAMA's inception?
Yeah, definitely. It was, the banks had lent 74 billion euros worth of loans into the property sector, and when we bought the loans under the EU Commission approved mechanism, we paid the banks 32 billion euros for that.
32, thanks. And of that 74, 32, what value has been sold to date?
To date, we have sold about 17.5 billion euros.
17.5
of the 32
against the 32.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's 17.5 against the 32. And then, can you tell us how you did, how that 17.5 matches up to what you bought them for, Senator? Chair.
Thank you.
Could you tell us, of the 17.5 done to date, how much NAMA bought those for, and what the book value of that 17.5 was?
Definitely, yeah. I suppose what we look at is the residual portfolio, and as of 30th of June, we had a 16 billion worth of 14.6 billion worth of remaining loans remaining. So after taking a cumulative provision as of 30th of June of 3.6 billion.
I'm sorry, say that last bit again. You've taken it.
We had taken a if we had no provision, we would have 18.1 billion worth of loans remaining as of the 30th of June. Yeah. But when you take a 3.6 billion provision, the net book value is 14.6.
Against the net book value. So just for clarity, so the total sale, their total revenue raised through sales to date is 17.5 billion. Is that correct?
Yes.
And can you just tell the committee, for that set of assets, which NAMA has sold for 17.5 billion, how much did NAMA buy those assets for, and what was the book value of those assets?
Deputy, I don't have that figure with me today, but I commit to coming back to the committee.
Oh, okay. Really, you don't know the you don't know the purchase price of the assets you've sold, and you don't know the book value of the assets you've sold.
What we look at, Deputy, is the value of the remaining book after we sold. So we bought for 32 billion, and we've sold 17.5 billion worth of assets. We've also collected almost 5 billion of income on those assets in the meantime, and we have net carrying value of 14.6 billion left of those assets on our balance sheet.
Can I? Sorry, this was not an answer I was expecting at all. I was just looking for the high-level figures. It comes back to what Deputy O'Donnell was asking around. Our job is to try and hold NAMA to account, hopefully for the good work that it does. But Mr. McDonagh, with the greatest respect, the single most important figures you as Chief Executive should have today are, for everything you've sold so far, how much did you buy them for, and what was the book value? Would you agree that they're pretty fundamental figures for NAMA to have?
Definitely. I'm sorry, but you've got a lot of information to come to this committee, and you've asked me a question. I don't want to make up an answer on the spot.
Okay.
So I commit to coming back to you. I didn't expect that.
Thank
question.
you. I thought this would be at the top of your head, because obviously the single most important figure for us, is how much did you buy the assets that you have sold at? The gap between the purchase price and the sales price is what matters, right? Now, to Deputy O'Donnell's second point, I think the other one that matters is your total realised sales price against a nominal optimal sales price, which is something that we rely on the CNAG to look into, because we don't know. But could I ask you to come back? That to me is not knowing that figure, and I have the greatest respect for what you're doing, Mr. McDonagh, but not knowing that figure is I'm surprised. I'm very surprised. It's the most important one for us. I didn't mean to try and catch you out. Can I ask you what interest rate NAMA is paying on its senior debt?
Our interest rate on our debt?
Yeah.
The average cost of our debt, because we've hedged against, is about 1.4% for 2014.
And that senior debt, they're multi-year bonds, are they?
They're 12 months. They're 12-month bonds.
Oh, so you're rolling them over every 12 months?
Yeah. We have to. The banks have to agree to roll them over every 12 months.
And it's at 1.4%. Has that come down in line with sovereign borrowing costs coming down over the last few years?
Well, Deputy, the bonds we issued are 6-month Euribor coupon.
Yeah.
And we have hedged them in the market against in case interest rates would rise in the future. Yes, that cost has come down over the years as variable rate costs funding has dropped.
Thank you. I'd like to ask you a question that was raised by a constituent of mine who's looking to build houses. And he's tried on a few occasions. He sent me specific examples of sites that he's approached NAMA to buy. And NAMA has said they're not for sale right now, which obviously is NAMA's prerogative. I'm not suggesting there's anything wrong with NAMA's position. But can I ask you, in a situation where obviously we have a supply side mismatch in the housing market, when a developer or a potential builder approaches NAMA and a piece of development land hasn't been put up for sale, is there a process whereby that expression of interest can kick off a review that maybe now it's time? How sensitive is NAMA to potential buyers saying, look, I'd like to buy this piece of land in Dublin or North Wicklow or wherever it is. I want to put 40, 50, 100 houses on it. NAMA says, sorry, it's not for sale right now. We don't believe now is the best time to sell it. What kind of back and forth goes on within NAMA to review that?
Definitely, we get contacted by people nearly every single day of people asking us, is there certain land or certain assets up for sale? And I suppose the reality is that if we receive an offer from somebody where we think it makes an interesting commercial proposition, then we review that case to see does it make sense to put that asset on the market or not. Because we're working as part of each individual asset or debtor's portfolio of agreeing a sort of a strategy to how to work out that portfolio over a period of time. And if the view may well be that you'd hold the assets, you maybe get new planning or revised planning, and that would improve the value of the assets. And then we might actually decide, we might actually give funding to that owner to build out. That could be a particular scenario. We had a scenario last year where we had lined up a joint venture partner to buy some land in South County Dublin from a receiver to form a joint venture to actually build residential units. The receiver received an unsolicited offer higher than what our joint venture was prepared to pay for it, and we told the receiver he had an obligation, which he knew himself, to maximise return. He put on the open market, and he got double the value of what we were prepared to pay for it in the open market. So anytime there's a commercial opportunity out there that's going to maximise return, it is looked at.
And is there any formal process whereby someone who's interested in a piece of land is willing to pay a decent amount for it, can ask that a formal review of it being put for sale can be conducted by NAMA?
Yes. We have an internal communications team where people can write to them, and part of their job is to follow up on an inquiry, contact the relevant case manager, get the facts of the situation, and the case gets reviewed if it makes commercial sense.
Thank you. Can I ask on the social housing that NAMA is sometimes completing and then offering to either a local authority or a housing agency for sale? Are those properties being offered at market rate, or are they being offered at a recognised discount to the local authority or the housing agency?
In terms of the, if it's a long-term lease, we've agreed a discount with the housing agency below market value, so that we would lease it below market value.
Typically, what sort of discounts are being offered?
Typically, somewhere around 10%.
How many in time, Vice Chair?
I'll give you 1 minute extra.
All right, thank you. The last question I'd like to ask regards, it might have been the sale you were talking about. It was the sale of John Rogerson's Quay, where I think NAMA sold the property for 7.5 million, and then it was sold a year later, just in August actually, for nearly 18 million. Now, inevitably, when you're disposing of so many assets, some people are going to be able to buy them and flip them at a profit. Inevitably, that's going to happen. It would be unreasonable to expect that NAMA would never get caught out like that. However, the question then is, was that an isolated incident? Did it kick off a review? And how satisfied is NAMA that the prices that it's getting are reasonable market prices? Particularly, Mr. McDonagh, within the context of, I was very taken by you saying, correct me if I'm sorry if I'm wrong, that 89% of the purchases from NAMA are coming from US funds. Some of them obviously are here for the long haul, but an awful lot of funds, as you and I know, have 12 to 36 month time horizons, and they're buying them with a view to a short-term capital gain. Could you just answer as a finish on this, Chair? Thank you. How concerned are you that there's a lot of that going on?
Well, Deputy, no way could I sit here and tell you that NAMA could get the timing of every single asset sale right, and that buyers buy assets on the basis that they expect to make a commercial return, and some, as you say, take a longer term view and some take a short term view. In terms of that particular asset you're talking about there, just so the facts are in the public domain, there was a receivership sale. The receiver openly marketed that asset, and that asset was agreed to be sold at the best price at the time in late 2012. And that was before the property market had recovered here in Ireland. The fact that it was sold subsequently to a special purchaser, and some people may have the view that nobody else would have paid the price that was paid for it in the mid-June or mid-2014. Happens, and having looked at it and spoken to the receiver in terms of his legal obligations to maximise the return in terms of paying out the debtor's debt, and having looked at the fact that it was openly marketed, is the safest mechanism to ensure that you get the best price you can for an asset at a particular point in time. If you don't openly market it, you always run the risk that there'd be somebody there who would say, if I knew it wasn't available, if I knew that asset was available, I would have paid more.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
McDonagh.
Thank you, Chair.